I spoke about Frankenstein quite a bit in my Oscars episode, which, by the way, if you haven't seen, you should definitely go check out. The link is in my description below. I just felt like it needed a whole episode. You know what I mean? This is a film that was so heavy, so rich. It deserved a deep dive from me. With most films, I try to keep my expectations moderate. I try to keep them very grounded, very down to earth. But you see this Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, I did no such thing. Because first of all, it's Guillermo del Toro. And the casting announcements, Oscar Isaac, who you already know is a beast in his own right. And then Mia Goth, Jacob Elordi. Hearing the name Jacob Elordi, I was like, because look at what we've seen him in the past. But I will not lie to you guys, seeing this film, particularly Mia Goth and Jacob Elordi, the markers of ingenuity were always there.
Please, I'm a star!
What the f? What the f is wrong with you? What the f is wrong with you?
But it was not until I saw this film that it really shone through, and it has become so undeniable that these two are geniuses. Hi, I'm Tomiwa, and I love to share my takes on film, television, pop culture, books, you name it. Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein is a modern feat. It excels as an adaptation of Mary Shelley's classic Frankenstein or the modern Prometheus. It made ripples during this 2026 award season, eventually whisking home Best Production Design, Best Costume, and Best Makeup at the Oscars, all of which were very deserved. But what is the subject matter? What is this film about? What are the themes? And why is this film so important? Let's get into it. Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein primarily explores the theme of humanity versus monstrosity. Who is the real monster? And that question has a very simple answer. It's Victor. Victor is the monster. Victor Frankenstein. It's made very glaring, very clear at several points during this film that Victor Frankenstein is not to be rooted for. It's rather despicable, rather lacking of a moral compass. A notable change, notable creative liberty Guillermo del Toro took was changing the relationship Victor had with Elizabeth. In numerous adaptations, it's been shown as Victor and Elizabeth being engaged, being childhood sweethearts, and on the day of the wedding, things go very sour. Elizabeth winds up dead at the hands of the creature. But in this adaptation, not only are Victor and Elizabeth not childhood lovers, they're strangers. Elizabeth is actively engaged to Victor's Abu, Victor's younger brother, William. Yet that doesn't stop Victor. That doesn't stop Victor from doing these things and orchestrating these situations where he and Elizabeth will be alone together, delusionally curating this world in his head where both of them can be together, where she is as enamored by him as he supposedly is by her. And it ends in sorrow, mostly for him, because she wants nothing to do with this man, beyond perhaps friendship.
On my wedding day, I ask you but for a single grace. No more lines.
I want to tell you.
Leave my chambers now. Leave!
But of course, it still does end in tragedy for Elizabeth. In the beginning segment of this film, where Victor is recounting events from his perspective, you look at his father, his mother also played by Mia Goth, mind you. That's a very important piece of information because 2025 was the year of the dual performances. Mia Goth is a performance that should not go overlooked just because she had like 2 or 3 minutes of screen time in the alternate room. As Victor's mother, of course, her voice is still her voice. She's speaking another language, but you can't tell it's her. It's so distinct from what she does later in the film as Elizabeth. And big shout out to the prosthetics, big shout out to the makeup department for this and for everything they did in this film, essentially, because I didn't even clock it was her till after the film. Mind you, I'd heard about this prior to seeing the film, so it's really amazing work that they did as a collective. Really amazing work. The relationship Victor has with his mother is a positive one. It's a beautiful one. She is everything to him. rightfully so. His relationship with his father, though, that leaves much to be desired. There's a resting disdain his father has for both Victor and his mother. And following the passing of Victor's mother, Victor holds his father in much contempt because his father is this renowned doctor, and Victor is of the impression, I am also of the impression, that Victor's father perhaps did a thing or two, or didn't do a thing or two, that resulted in the death of Victor's mother. Victor nurses that hatred over the years, nurses that hatred, and it is this hatred that fuels his ambition to the point where it becomes something else entirely. Driven by ego, driven by pride, he aspires to surpass his father by conquering death, an endeavor that will inevitably mold Victor as this cunning individual with very little regard for life. You look at the way this man deals with corpses, but of course, what's more inhuman than trying to play God, trying to create life from death? Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein can be viewed as a commentary on today's world with scientific advancements, with AI taking over and wreaking havoc. I'm terrified, you should be terrified too, because today's world is becoming something that's unprecedented, something that's headed for very, very, very uncharted territory. Frankenstein is trying to say, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. It's a very acute, timeless commentary on the world that we are looking at today. Some of the innovation we are seeing today, proposing to wipe humans out of the creative industry of a number of workforces. There's moral implications that are not always treated with the urgency and importance that they should. There's an article by Ali Cavines of the Midwest Film Journal that I love so much. In it, she describes Del Toro's Frankenstein as being about fathers perpetuating cycles of abuse, men who should not procreate yet do so anyway, and impose their vicious wills upon their children. Does it get more literal than that? In Victor's quest to surpass his father, he became his father. He became worse than his father. Upon the discovery that his creature was not an unsuccessful project, did in fact come to life, Victor is astounded. He's shocked. He's surprised. He's warm. He's warm towards his creature. He's soft. He's described in the script as being delighted, like a father seeing his child. And in those early moments, in those early days, things are soft, things are sweet. He's taught the creature to say his name, Victor. Unfortunately though, all the creature can say is Victor. Victor quickly finds that this creature isn't as developed, as capable as he believed it was going to be. And an epiphany hits Victor all too late. He says everything was new to him. The cold, the warmth, light, darkness, and I was there to mold him. I had never considered what would come after creation. And having reached the edge of the earth, there was no horizon left. The achievement felt unnatural and void of meaning, and that disturbed me so. Victor Frankenstein was, goddamn. There aren't horrible enough words to describe this man. Megalomaniac that he is, Victor grows increasingly cold to this creature, beginning to verbally and physically abuse him, before inevitably orchestrating the destruction of the mansion in which the creature is housed in a dungeon, losing a leg in the process. Very deserved. In my opinion, Victor should have lost much more than a leg for doing what he was trying to do. It's amazing that for a man as intelligent as he is, he could not see, after years and years of research and experimenting, and yet Elizabeth could see it instantaneously. His creature was a child needing a parent, as opposed to a soldier awaiting instruction. I really do love the way Elizabeth clocked this man earlier in the film. She clocked the vanity and the emptiness of Victor's endeavor. She said, well, honor, country, valor, These surely are worthwhile elevated ideas by themselves, wouldn't you agree? And nevertheless, men are dying for them. In a decidedly unelevated way, you see. Face down in the mud, choking on blood, screaming in pain. Men that were fathers, brothers or sons to someone out there. Men who were fed, cleaned, nursed and schooled into the world by their mothers. And they were warned not to lie, told not to step outside without a coat, lest they would catch a cold, only to fall on the battlefield far away from those that provoked those tragedies. Those men remain at home, untouched by blood or bayonet, their skin unpierced, their blankets warm and clean. This is what happens when ideas are pursued by fools. Victor's endeavor is not an empty one altogether, but where does it come from? What motivates it? It's shallow. It's fueled by his ego. It's fueled by his personal vendetta, lacking the structure that morality would have provided him with to do something much more grounded. A central theme in Frankenstein is fatherhood and abandonment. The monstrosities of Victor's father begots the monster that Victor inevitably became. And to me, that's something very intriguing. Jacob Elordi in this film gives the performance of his career. Really did prove himself. Because what he did as the creature, I can't name a myriad of people who could do the same, who could live up to what Jacob Elordi did. In collaboration with Del Toro, the creature we see is a child finding his footing for the first time, thrust into a world that's unfortunately unprepared to welcome him, incapable of accepting him with open arms. Disillusioned by his reality, the creature welcomes death. However, is shocked to discover that he cannot die. His injuries heal themselves instantaneously. He says, "For every man, there was but one remedy to all pain, death. A gift you too had denied me." It's very saddening, the things that the creature has to stomach, has to endure. The sequence with the blind man being shredded by the wolves and family discovering him and him in retaliation completely ripping off the jaw of one of them is gruesome as it is tragic. Creature has lost the only quote-unquote father he had ever known. In theory, Victor was his father, but he was fathered by this old blind man who he's just lost. He decides to go back to the source, to Victor, with one request: a companion. Everything about this film screams Guillermo del Toro. Because one thing Guillermo del Toro will do is to take a monster and humanize it. He will hold up a monster and a human side by side and force you to question which is which. In the books, the creature is fueled by his vendetta to get back at Victor and basically slaughters his entire family one after the other. In this adaptation, although there is some bloodshed, although there is some gore, it isn't as psychotic, isn't nearly as psychotic as it is in the books. What Frankenstein's creature in Guillermo del Toro's adaptation does is react, respond. Finding Victor on the night of Elizabeth's wedding, he begs him for one thing: a companion to share this gruesome reality with. And I love the way it's worded in the books. He says, "O Frankenstein, be not equitable to every other, and trample upon me alone, to whom thy justice and even thy clemency and affection is most due." There he's talking about the fact that you literally brought me into this world, as a result of which you do owe me your affection, you do owe me your attention, neither of which I'm getting from you. Remember that I am thy creature. I ought to be thy Adam, but I am rather the fallen angel, whom thy drivest from joy, from no misdeed. You're supposed to take care of me, you know. You're supposed to be there for me. You're supposed to be my guy. You're supposed to be my guide. I'm not getting any of this from you. Instead, I'm getting contempt. Instead, I'm getting hatred. Instead, you are actively trying to slaughter me. Everywhere, I see bliss, from which I alone am irrevocably excluded. The creature's looking around, the creature's walking through life, forced to look at the joys of life through the eyes of others as he himself can experience such highs. I was benevolent and good. Misery made me a fiend. Make me happy, and I shall again be virtuous. A companion is all this creature requests of Victor. Give me my companion and I'll leave you alone. Give me my companion, you'll never see me again. Victor's response: I'm not creating another monster. You are vile enough. Why would I double the world with you? and then you proceed to propagate, and then the world has more monsters. No, I'm not going to do that. If you were the creature, how would you have reacted? How would you have responded to that? Creature notably says, the miracle is not that I should speak, Victor, but that you should listen. A father who has no ear for the needs of his ward, his child, because that's what the creature is, his child. Yet Victor lacks the slightest modicum, the slightest iota of responsibility. The sense of duty towards this ward of his just isn't there. The film at many points paints us the picture of humanity versus monstrosity. In Victor, we see cruelty. In Elizabeth, we see empathy, kindness, light, love. And at this climactic moment, these themes melt into themselves. With Victor attempting to shoot the monster, Elizabeth jumping in front of it, taking the bullets, getting fatally wounded. I just want to say this creature is immortal. He would have survived that gunshot. And here comes Elizabeth jumping in front of it, dying for no reason whatsoever. Oh goodness. If I were the emotional type, I would have been sobbing during this film. I can tell you that, because a lot of it was compelling. But you see this segment, the death of Elizabeth, it's something about the pacing of the film, but it just didn't work for me. Alternatively, it could be the fact that Victor Frankenstein is not a person with a strong enough heart, a strong enough conscience for the tragedy to land. She died and we didn't see any real grief from Victor. Of course, that could also be a pacing issue. In Ali Cavanagh's article, she writes, I never expected Del Toro to create a word-for-word adaptation of Frankenstein. I also did not expect it to be perfect. Del Toro has its flaws and indulgences, and those are out in full force in Frankenstein. Exquisite production design sometimes takes precedence over character development. Visual elegance often papering over an even pacing. The sprawling beginning is so engrossing that the rushed conclusion begs for 30 more minutes to narrate the culmination of its chosen themes. But the bumps of this movie aren't deal breakers for me, because the adaptive choices he makes throughout are so interesting, even when I don't agree with them. Perfect film is rare, especially when the subject matter is so close to the filmmaker's heart, as Frankenstein is to Del Toro's. And Frankenstein is not the same thing to Del Toro that it is to me. That is the beauty of art, inspired by another piece of art. To view it freshly from another person's eyes. To see a whole other monster than the one you thought you knew. Stitches and all. Very, very well said. Frankenstein is a feat. One of the best things Guillermo del Toro has given the world, but the pacing kills it in a number of ways. Of course, the three leads are phenomenal. Oscar Isaac compels attention and forbids you from looking away from the screen. He forbids it. And honestly, I'm still astounded by the fact that he didn't get a single nod this award season, because he was phenomenal as Victor Frankenstein. The same goes for Mia Goth, who didn't get a nod for supporting actress. Of course, we can't all be winners. They will get their flowers one way or the other, eventually, because there's talent and there's talent. And this film had the latter. On the subject of pacing, the death of William could have hit a little harder if the film was extended. There were a lot of things that William represented that I feel this film needed more time to flesh out. As he dies, he notably says to Victor, every ounce of madness and destruction, the very conflagration that devoured it all came from you. There's a part that was omitted in the film, which I found very interesting. It says, Father feared you. Did you know that? Did you? You and you alone remain the monster. It doesn't get any clearer than that. Even with Victor's bold announcement that, I'm going to hunt the monster, and all the guests being wary of him, it's clear. Victor has become the monster. The very monster he's trying to hunt. There was a connection Elizabeth and the creature shared that also needed more time. As she dies, she says to him, "My place was never in this world. Like you, I sought and I longed for something I could not quite name, but in you I found it. To be lost and to be found, that is the lifespan of love. And in its brevity, in its tragedy, this has been made eternal." Very beautiful dialogue. Very beautiful dialogue. It really is a shame that everything falls apart in the third act of this film. I feel like the themes, the specific themes that Guillermo was going for, they needed a well-rounded out conclusion. This is one film that would have been justified for having over 3 hours of runtime because subject matter of it was heavy. It was really heavy stuff and needed time to really fill up the gaps it needed to. The inevitable cat and mouse between Victor and the creature, with Victor's numerous attempts to kill this creature.
This. You put your faith in this. You think this will unmake me? Light it then and hope it does. But if it does not, I will come for you again. Light it! Now. Run.
And them eventually seeing each other eye to eye on the captain's ship. Victor dies forgiving and forgiven of the creature by the creature. And before dying, audibly refers to this creature as his son. Heartfelt stuff, but it needed more time. It needed more time. It ends with the creature saying that Victor has died. Now we can both be human. That's a very heavy line. Victor, human in his death. The creature, human in living. What is humanity but not life and death? Guillermo del Toro, the man that you are. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Tomiwa's Takes. If you agreed with the things I said or you really did not, tell me something in the comments. If you did enjoy this episode, leave me a like and of course, subscribe. Don't forget to go follow me on my socials. It's been me and it's been real. Bye.